I still remember the exact moment I knew something was wrong with my husband. It was the night of our third wedding anniversary, October 17th, 2024. The sky over Portland was clear and cold, the stars sharp enough to cut glass. Daniel had insisted we drive out to Council Crest Park after dinner, just the two of us. No phones, no distractions. He said he wanted to watch the meteor shower. I thought it was romantic. We sat on the hood of his old Subaru, wrapped in the same old blanket we'd used on our first date. He was quiet, unusually quiet, staring upward like he was waiting for something more than shooting stars. Then a green streak flared across the sky, brighter than any meteor I'd ever seen, and Daniel whispered something I couldn't quite catch. It didn't sound like English. "What did you say?" I asked, laughing a little because I thought he was joking. He turned to me, and for the first time in 3 years of marriage, his eyes reflected the light wrong. Like a cat's eyes at night. A thin membrane flickered across them, then vanished. "Nothing," he said, smiling too perfectly. "Just look at that one." I should have pressed him then, but I didn't. Because I loved him. Because I was happy. Because when you marry a man who makes you feel like the center of the universe, you don't go looking for cracks in the sky. My name is Clara Ellison, 32 years old, wildlife photographer. I met Danel'ir Halvereen at a conservation conference in Seattle 5 years ago. He was the quiet guy in the back row taking meticulous notes, the one who asked the most thoughtful questions about migratory patterns and light pollution. He had dark hair that fell into his eyes, a slight limp from a hiking accident he never talked much about, and a laugh that made my knees weak. We married 2 years later in a tiny ceremony on the Oregon coast. No family from his side, just a cousin he said couldn't make it. I thought it was strange, but he said his parents died when he was young, and the rest of the family was scattered across Europe. I accepted it. People have painful histories. I had mine. The first 2 years were bliss. We bought a little blue house in the West Hills. We adopted a 3-legged rescue dog named Pickles. We argued about whose turn it was to do dishes, and made up on the kitchen floor. Normal married life. But there were small things. Always small things. He never got sick. Not once. No colds, no flu, nothing. He hated having his picture taken. He'd angle his face away at the last second. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night and find the bed empty. I'd go downstairs and he'd be standing in the backyard, barefoot in the frost, staring at the sky. I told myself he was stargazing. That he was just eccentric. That love means giving people room for their weird little habits. Then came the night everything broke open. It was February 2025. A storm had knocked out the power for 2 days. We were burning candles, playing Scrabble by firelight when the doorbell rang. That alone was strange. No one comes up our long driveway without calling first. Daniel went rigid. I'd never seen him like that. His hand gripped my wrist, so hard it bruised. "Don't answer it," he said. "It's probably just a neighbor checking in. Clara, please." But I was already walking to the door. I opened it. A woman stood on the porch. Tall, pale, short silver hair that looked wet even though it wasn't raining. She wore a long black coat that didn't flutter in the wind the way it should have. Her eyes were the same color as Daniel's when the light hit them wrong. She looked at me, then past me, and spoke in a language that sounded like wind chimes made of glass. Daniel answered in the same language. His voice cracked. The woman's gaze returned to me. She said in perfect English, "He has to come home. The council has decided." I laughed. I actually laughed, because this had to be a prank. "Who are you?" She didn't blink. "I am his first wife." The floor tilted under my feet. Daniel, my Daniel, stepped forward and put himself between us. "Lyra, you can't do this. The integration protocol." "The protocol failed," she said. "The war started again. We need every observer. Now." I found my voice. "Get out of my house." She looked almost sad. "He isn't yours, Clara Ellison. He never was." Then she turned and walked away into the dark. The porch light flickered once and died. Daniel closed the door. He wouldn't look at me. "Tell me she's lying," I said. He was shaking. Actually shaking. "Clara! Tell me!" He sank onto the bottom stair and buried his face in his hands. "I'm not from here," he whispered. "I'm not human." The words hung in the air like smoke. I waited for him to laugh, to say it was a joke, to explain the hidden cameras. But he didn't. He told me everything that night, piece by piece, while the storm howled outside and the candles burned lower. His real name wasn't Daniel Harper. It was Danel'ir Halvereen. He was born on a planet called Tavar, in the Cygnus spiral, 600 light-years away. His people, the Ve'ari, had been watching Earth for centuries. Not to invade, to study, to learn what it means to be mortal. In 1997, a Ve'ari observation ship malfunctioned and crashed in the Nevada desert. The official story was a weather balloon. The truth was 3 survivors. They were rescued, integrated, given new identities. Daniel was one of them, barely an adolescent by Ve'ari standards, equivalent to a human 19-year-old. The Ve'ari age slowly. One of their years is 12 of ours. Daniel was 112 years old. He was sent to observe human emotional development, to live as one of us, to fall in love, if possible, and report back how it changes the brain chemistry of an immortal species. He wasn't supposed to actually fall in love, but he did, with me. That's why he stayed past his recall date, why he married me, why he never told anyone the truth. I tried to leave, he said, voice raw, 3 times. Every time I got in the car to drive to the extraction point, I couldn't do it. I kept thinking about never seeing you again, never hearing you laugh at your own terrible puns, never waking up next to you. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hit him. I wanted to hold him and pretend none of this was happening. Instead, I asked the only question that mattered. Are you leaving now? He looked up at me with those eyes that weren't quite human. They'll come again, he said. They won't ask next time. I don't know how long we sat there in silence. Minutes. Hours. Then I said, take me with you. He stared at me like I'd lost my mind. I'm serious, I said. If your people are at war, if they need observers, take me. Let me see your world. Let me understand. You don't know what you're asking. I know exactly what I'm asking. I'm asking you to choose me the way I've been choosing you every day for 5 years. He started to cry. I'd never seen him cry before. Ve'ari tears are clear, but they shimmer slightly, like liquid starlight. 2 nights later, we drove north to an abandoned airstrip outside Astoria. Lyra was waiting with 2 others. They didn't speak. They just opened a seam in the air, a rippling oval of green light, and gestured for us to step through. I held Daniel's hand so tightly my fingers went numb. The journey took less than a heartbeat and forever. There was no ship, no tunnel of light, just one step on Earth, the next step on red sand under 3 moons. Tavar was beautiful in a way that hurt. The sky was violet at the horizon and gold overhead. The air tasted like rain and electricity. Cities floated kilometers above the ground, tethered by threads of light. They took us to the Council of Observers, 12 ancient Ve'ari with skin like polished moonstone. They spoke directly into my mind. You are not compatible. You will die here within a year. Your biology cannot adapt. Daniel, no, Danel'ir argued for hours. Days. Their time flows differently. He begged. He threatened to defect permanently. He offered to stay on Earth as punishment if they'd let me live. They refused. Then I did the only thing I could think of. I told them the truth. You want to know what love does to an immortal? I said, watch what it does when you try to take it away. I pulled the small ceramic knife I'd hidden in my boot, the one I use for cutting photo backdrops, and I slit my wrists right there in front of the council. Blood well dark and human. Daniel screamed, a sound I hope I never hear again. The council froze. They had never seen a mortal choose death over separation. One of them, the oldest, touched my mind gently. You would die for him. I would live for him, I said, but not without him. There was a silence that lasted 1,000 years. Then the oldest spoke. The bond is complete. The experiment is over. He is no longer Ve'ari. They healed me with a thought. The scars are still there, thin white lines like lightning bolts. They gave Daniel a choice: return to Earth with me, severed from his people forever, or stay and watch me die on an alien world. He chose Earth. We came home the same way we left, one step through a seam in the air. We landed in our backyard at 3:17 a.m. Pickles barked like he'd seen ghosts. 6 months have passed. Daniel still flinches when airplanes fly too low. Sometimes he wakes up speaking Ve'ari in his sleep. He can't go back. They burned his neural signature from the collective. He's mortal now, or as close as a Veyari can get. He'll live maybe 200 years. We're calling it a win. Lyra sent one final message through a dream. She said the war ended 3 days after we left. Our choice, my choice, showed the council something they'd never understood before. That love isn't just brain chemistry. It's gravity. It bends light. It changes universes. Sometimes, late at night, we sit on the roof of our little blue house and watch the stars. He tells me which ones are real and which ones are Veyari observation posts. He taught me how to say, "I love you," in his native language. It sounds like wine through crystal leaves. I asked him once if he regrets it. Giving up immortality. Giving up his home. He looked at me like I was crazy. "Clara," he said, "you are my home." And I believe him. Because the truth is, I married an alien. And he married a human who was crazy enough to follow him across the stars and threatened to die if they tried to take him away. We're even. Some nights, when the sky is clear and cold, I catch him staring upward with that old longing in his eyes. I take his hand. "Hey," I whisper. "Look at me." He does. And the stars can wait.